We are live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Actually, we're not live today. This is a pre-recording. Just wanted to say that, get y'all. I know you might be used to our normal intro, but we're doing things a little bit different today. This is a pre-recorded show. And go ahead and give the mic back over to your host, Gary-Dobbs.
Hey, what's up, everybody? And I can't hear any music on my end, but you got music playing?
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right. I don't hear it on my end. But welcome, everybody, to the Trep Show. This is Gary Dobbs, your host. This is Trep Show number 24. We're going to be talking about products. And today's show title is Avoid Product Failure with These Strategies. We want to go through some ideas talking about how people deliver products to the market, what entices, what gets people interested into them, how you can avoid failure when you're delivering it to your market. There's just so many things, no matter what kind of an entrepreneur you are. You're trying to put something out that's right for you. You're hoping it's going to be well received in the market.
Do you hear the music now?
That's going to be our show title today.
You hear the music now?
Yeah, I hear the music.
Okay.
All right. And so let's talk about that, about avoiding product failure. How do you know your product is ready for the market? It's a pretty interesting question. I think for me, when I think about my business, and I would think, well, how do you know your product's ready for the market? It would just probably have to meet my standards. So there's a lot of creatives out there and artists and people that they're not necessarily building a product trying to think about everything that the customer wants. They're actually designing their own interpretation of this product or whatever the deliverable is. They're making their own interpretation of it, and when it meets their standards, then they release it, right? So for any of you out there listening, some of you know that I studied architecture. So a lot of the ways I look at things is I look at the processes of architecture, the way architects work. And there's a lot of great architects that whenever they got asked to do something, to make product, whether they were creating a stage, whether it was like one of the Eames was making a stage presentation and an attraction for IBM. There was no direction for him. I mean, he pretty much just did his own interpretation. And they put out something what they thought was going to connect with people in a way. There was no measurement. There was just whatever they thought was going to work. And they really try to push the boundaries. So if you're like more of a design type company, you're going to most of the time, you're going to most of the time only be using yourself and your own standards to deliver and design that product on what you're putting out. You're not really looking for input from other people. You might collect input. You might collect stuff that you need to do in order to make your product, but you're not looking for anybody's advice or opinions on what you're making, right? To tell you what to do. You want to just go through this process yourself and actually come up with something that's going to work. You're really trying, and what designers and what product makers do with this is really they're trying to push the boundary and maybe just deliver something that stems on an idea, right? Like they think about, like, for example, a lot of you had sat on an Eames chair, or some of you might have even been to an Eames house. But when Charles Eames made the chairs, when they first made it, him and his wife at the time, Ray, came up with the idea to make these chairs. Like, they wanted to make high quality design, mass produced chairs. So their whole point of it making these were to bring in high level design at a much, much more affordable price so that everybody could sit in a high quality design chair. And that was the basis. And that's what the product had to meet. Those were the terms the product, any type of chair they created had to meet in order to pass the test and go on to production, right? Mm-hmm. So depending on you, with your business, and you're thinking about what you're putting up to the market, I mean, there's really, you don't have to follow that if you're not a designer. You could be someone that is, let's say you just want to be successful in business and you just want to make something that people want. You just want to sell a product that people already want. So maybe you're just going to look for trends, or you're going to look for items that are already selling off the shelves, and you're just going to create your own version of that, right? That's a possibility too. You could do that. And it's not a bad idea either, because you're not trying to create something new. You're not trying to put something else new out to the market with no idea whether people are going to take to it or not.
So what do you mean by that? Like,
so I feel like, by which statement did I make?
We were just talking about how if you're going to do something a certain way, you wouldn't do it this other way if you're trying to do it the correct way. That's what I mean.
Okay. So like that, I think of like, I think of like an architecture. So for example, Roger Eames, he had a certain unique way of looking at the world. So everything that he made was in his design studio. It was meeting there, when he was talking with the other architects and designers, then they're thinking about making a building or designing a chair. They're just thinking about doing it in their own unique way. They're not asking people what they want or anything like that. They're just thinking of, like for example, when they made one of the first chairs that they made, what they didn't feel like other people did was make a chair that was comfortable for anybody. So they brought in lots of people of different shapes, different sizes, to come in and have them sit on their product type and do measurements so that they can make sure, like, they were accounting for pretty much about any different type of body size, so that no matter who sat in this chair, they were going to be able to sit comfortably.
Yeah. Okay. So you basically trying to say, like, if you're trying to make something that's going to succeed, you want to make sure you've done all your research.
Yeah, for sure. So like if you're making a chair, then you want to make sure it's sitting at the right height. You can have the back, the arms, the seat, everything at much different dimensions. And depending on how you design it, there might be some voids. So they would have to make sure, the seat needs to be at this length, and there's going to be a space between the seat and the back. So we got to make sure there's enough room for, enough wiggle room for this. So when a person sits into it, it's comfortable. Because when a person sits in a chair, right, there's natural curves to the body. So the architect's actually trying to account for those curves to the body. So it's not like your normal chairs that you go buy at a store that's just a flat piece to sit on and a flat piece to go against your back. That's not a design chair. Like anybody that sits in that chair is going to start getting pains at some point because the chair is so uncomfortable. So the architect's actually trying to come up with a unique shape of this design for the chair, but that also accommodates the body, accommodates the person's natural form. So when they sit in it, it's naturally self-supporting. Not all the weight is going into one place, but the weight's distributed throughout different points of the chair. I mean, that's one way you can reduce pressure and pain for a person, is to try to balance all that weight distribution.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of architects will use that because you do need to have the architects do need to have an understanding of physics. So if the designer the lead architect doesn't understand physics, he's got to have somebody on his team that can understand how to calculate load and how to look at something. If you put this much weight with this much mass on an object, they're going to be able to understand where the weight distribution is. And so how to construct, the form of the chair to make sure it supports all the weight. There's many different ways you can construct the support, but the person that understands physics and can do mathematics like that, they'll be able to figure that out. So it's not like you can just draw lines to say, okay, this goes here and there. You actually have to be calculate where the connections have to happen.
I know
so the chair's 30, so it doesn't
how you made that
break.
distinction. kind of like that distinction you made about an architecture engineer and an architect. Like they
Yeah.
can make it look pretty, but one person can actually build it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Definitely. Yeah, because the architect that doesn't understand engineering, they won't be able to make like a box. They're just going to make a cute box. They
Yep.
can't actually make the box stand up.
They can't.
But when it comes to your products, it's like, I think this is where it becomes the difference between people, in business. When you're making the products, it just becomes your standards, because there's one way doesn't always work. So at the end of the day, I'm a true believer in, if you're going to start a business and work hard at it and do, and run that business, you want to make sure that you're satisfied with it at the end of the day. It's something that you'd be proud of. So whatever your standards are, whatever that is, then you want to make sure.
Mm-hmm. That's good. I just think that for a product launch to be successful, you have to truly understand the environment. Like when you talked about, that's why I kind of brought it up. I just wanted to just go back into detail on that about the environment, because we're trying to do something pretty soon. Like, we got something that's going to be coming out. We were talking about it last week, the exclusive offer, and basically, this whole journey that we're taking, we're also like doing the things that we say, and we're going to show you. And we're not going to tell you how much money we make, but we'll tell you that we're making sales, and we can show you that what we're doing, and you can be on this journey with us, and you can see what it's like. Let's do this. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think that's really important for people to truly just grasp that, that idea of, these guys are not just telling us to do something. They're actually showing us how to get done and how to do it correct. And we're going to work on that, and we're going to show you, and you're going to see what happens when you get to this point in life where you make it. And it's not because you worked hard or anything like that. You did work hard, but it's going to be more because you were consistent. Being consistent gets you places. You know what I mean? And the more consistent you are, the more you put in work to getting things done, guess what's going to end up happening? Things are going to get done. And I'm going to tell y'all right now, and I work also I'm a hobbyist, I would suppose, in the music industry. But recently, things have been going in my favor. Bigger names have been involved with what I'm doing. And basically, I'm taking this, whatever I'm getting out of this, whatever is happening in my favor, I'm taking that and I'm going in a direction with it. And I'm starting to see that you have to research, and you have to know where you are in life. You have to know what people out there are wanting to know. Where are they trying to go in any kind of given situation? So, with all that being said, we are launching something. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it because we're putting it all together, and we're going to give you some information, and we're going to show you what it's like. And basically, I think would be a good idea, Gary, is if we did like a little step-by-step, like little mini series on like, okay, this is what we're doing at this point. Give everybody just enough. Not tell them all the secrets, because then you would be competing directly against us, and you could just use our own strategies against us. So we'll give you an idea of what to do, themes basically of what you can use to take a product from, its inception idea to the shelf or to the market or however you're trying to sell it, and really work on building a plan, a template. I mean, I think if you sign up to our subscriber base, we can have that template available for those out there. And
which part are you talking about? Like the product evaluation?
Yeah.
Okay.
So something like that. I mean, I'm just going off the top of the head right now, but really, the whole thing about failure and failing and things like that, when it comes down to doing in business, is that yes, failure is a part of business. However, I think even though it is a part, it shouldn't be the I think that people shouldn't take failing at something as a negative. The only time you take failing as a negative is when you can evaluate your efforts and you can really say, I didn't really try. I didn't put in the work, and you wasted a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of time, and you have 3 kids, and you're trying to live like you're 18 years old in a frat house. Once you realize that, once you look up in the mirror and you're like, man, I wasted my life. Yes, you did, because you didn't go about it the correct way. Never went about it, and you got to go about things in the proper way and use the proper channels to get to where you're trying to go, because you can't get anywhere if you don't do that. And I think that you're hitting some nails right on the head with the hammer when you're saying like, hey, and you're just agreeing, but just being consistently doing things, because you may not see the results right away.
Yeah.
But if you save, 30 pennies a day and you don't use those 30 pennies, you're going to have, how many days plus 30 pennies more than you had from the first day. And I think that people don't understand that aspect of effort. And there is a bank that builds up. And sometimes you can take that effort that you built up and cash in on it at a given instant or a given moment. And I think that this right here is important for people to understand. Like, start building into that bank. Start doing consistent things so they can become habits that you can cash in on when, an opportunity comes in front of you. Because opportunities do, just show up out of nowhere. I believe that. Yeah. So, what do you have to say? You have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I think that comes from networking. Oh, I'm getting an echo on my end. We can fix that. The network to me is like where that happens, because I feel like you're always going to need other people. And whatever it is you're endeavoring to do, you can't do everything on your own. Now, this is a different concept than self-made. I mean, self-made might think about, it kind of sounds like people are talking about they did everything on their own. But there's a difference to that. It's not quite that. And networking really is the magic ingredient with it. You need to, engage with people, I think, and deliver and talk about what you're putting out there and what you're working on in your business with people. Because you do, at the end of the day, you are looking to deliver it to somebody. So you just want to get to know who your ideal customers are, and really understand who that stuff is and who all those people are. Mm-hmm. You want to focus on all that, because that is what's more important for you and your business, is to look at all your ideal customers and understand them really well, because they're constantly changing on where they get information, or changing their mind on what they purchase, what they're buying. So, no matter, you are competing not only with products in your market, but you're competing with products outside your market, because you're talking about, at the end of the day, people have a budget and they only have so much money to spend. So it's like, is your product going to be at the top of the list, or is it at the bottom of the list? Mm-hmm. Right. And so I was watching something by a guy, the CEO of North America and Ducati, and he is talking about this new product that he was putting out, and they just released to the market, and it's called the Scrambler. And they were putting this thing out to engage with the more younger motorcycle rider. They're trying to they're trying to provide a bike for for a group where it's a community, it's a lifestyle, and they're trying to engage with a younger market. So at the end of the day, they don't know who is actually going to be the majority of people buying this product, because people decide for themselves. But they're thinking, and when they designed it, they're trying to design it for a much younger group. And they're not trying to, they made this product, they're not trying to connect with, like, let's say the 50-year-old, 60-year-old, and try to create a product for them, and a lifestyle for them, because they're not trying to go for an older demographic. They're trying to go for a younger one. They're trying to create like a connection with the consumer and really connect something that they're going to not only buy this product, but they're going to continue to buy more products.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, when he was talking about this, he said one of the other aspects they put in when they designed this was for something to be driven. So they weren't trying to make this beautiful bike that was going to just sit in the hands of a collector and sit in the garage and never be driven. They really wanted to make this that would be a fun motorcycle to ride. It was going to be for a group that was going to really ride this thing out, like want to wear it down. And they were targeting a younger demographic with this bike. So, and he talked about, as much as they already know the market, because he's, CEO of Ducati, and Ducati's an Italian motorcycle brand, and they've also sold bikes around the world. They know people really well. They know people that choose a high level brand like Ducati. They know that market well, but they're still talking about getting to know the customers, right? Because as time goes on, new customers come to market every year, all the time. So there's always going to be a learning curve where you have to get to know who your customers are, because your customers change. Like even if you sell to a demographic of 45 to 55 and you sell to that group for 10 years, well, it's not going to take 10 years for the way that demographic engages with the market and buys your product, because technologies, right, come and go. They change people's lives, and they affect the people's decisions. So there's so many things, so many nuances that happen, and different things that happens in people's life that continually change. So getting to know the customer and engaging with them is always, that's just like a never-ending process. You're never going to finally know the customer, because it's going to continue to change.
That's important.
Yeah.
But I got a question for you. You said something about know your market and do your research. But here's like a little playing the devil's advocate role. What about the person who doesn't, they want to create their own market. So they go out there, they have a product, and they know that people need water, or they know they need air. They know they need toilet paper. But imagine those ideas don't exist, and they become the person that has access to that. What about those kind of people? Like, how would you how would you mentor those kind of people?
Trying to get at, like, maybe like the product development stage of the person that created toilet paper.
Yeah,
like that, something like that. I think the best advice, the way I would look at it, the best advice I would give to somebody, or what I would try to learn about it, because I haven't actually done that. So I would probably look at, well, if I was going to give someone advice, or if I was going to try to do it myself, what I would do is I would try to look at what's wrong around the situation. So I've got a unique set of skills, and so I'm going to solve problems around the skills that I have. So let's say to the future person that, let's say that there was no toilet paper, and to go back to the time when somebody invented toilet paper. Obviously, somebody was pretty frustrated to come up with the idea of toilet paper, right? Because they weren't happy with the options that they had.
Mm-hmm.
And they noticed all the problems with the options that were available, and they understood all the problems that people were having so much that they were just like, you know what, there's got to be a better way, and I'm going to find a better way. Mm-hmm. And then they went out and did it. They thought of it. They tested products. They tested materials. They thought through the idea. They probably thought long and hard, like, well, it's just about the entire user experience, because a good designer's going to also think about try to think as much about the experience with the product as possible to try to understand how to design the right product. So that's where materiality comes into play. And then you come into play like with everything else, like how is this person going to use it? Is this a product that's going to be reused and have a lifelong span, or is it a product that's going to be just consumed and used once, and something that's just going to be thrown away? And I think that part's important, because some people try to create something that with the idea of making it last, when absolutely nobody has any intention of making this thing last, right? Like I was watching Shark Tank a couple weeks ago of an old episode, and these ladies made this wearable tie. It was supposed to be just some sort of a fun thing at a party, and it was made of this plastic vinyl, and you could stick it onto your shirt, and they made it to where it was stain free, it was reusable, so the stickiness didn't go away, and then they made it to where you can save it and use it again and again and again. So they ended up going through a process of product design to where they had to use more expensive materials or more expensive things, because they were trying to stretch the life of this product. But then at the end of the day, when they were evaluating it on Shark Tank and I was looking at, I agreed that if somebody's going to use this at a party, it's not going to be something anybody wants to keep. So, you might go to a party and like, oh, this is fun. Like we're at a party, I'll use this. And then you just throw it away and you're done. Nobody's actually going to keep it and like save it for the next time that they go use it. I feel like they did waste money and waste effort, and we're going out chasing an idea that not many people are going to want. Like, who's going to want to have this artsy cutesy little tie thing that looks like a sticker that you put on your shirt? Just, I don't know, so you can go around and have fun with people at a party. It's just not something that people are going to want to hold on to. It's more of a throwaway product, and so they wasted the money on research and development, and they're wasting material and manufacturing spending on paying for material that can be reused. So I think being practical about the situation and thinking of it, and really just trying to think about heightening the experience is a better way to go. Think about what people are going to want to have. Think about what's convenient for them. So sometimes people are going to come up with an idea that just isn't, nobody's going to gravitate to.
Yeah. So that's what you would do? Like, if you have a new idea, there's a new need, or you recognize a concern that people need to have. For me, in that kind of situation where it is so new and useful and so necessary, for me, what I would do is I would capitalize on my understanding of how can I make this scarcity, you know what I'm saying? How do I make that scarcity? How do I get people to realize that you need this more than what you're already doing? Because I feel like people have computers, people have cell phones, people have I don't think people really use iPods as much. I don't know if iPods work and if people actually buy that, or they just have a phone now.
Yeah.
But the Apple Watch is like the new iPod to me. Like the little smart watches. Like, and that's a new, like, becoming a necessity. Like, it's going to be like another thing that you have in conjunction with a phone. Because people realize you've been using the phone too much and they just want to quickly access certain things. I believe, like, that's a way that you can go. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just trying to say, like, where is there something where you can just draw the need to have something? and then really highlight how important whatever it is. And I think the best way to do that is to show the transition of how smooth and easy it works, and how smooth and easy it goes, and just goes in a situation. And with your business, for, basically customer relations management and workflow optimization and things like that, the moment somebody realizes that something that they were doing and they were doing it the hard way and focusing on more than what they really need to be focusing on, just in general, the moment that you can pretty much just take those people and really get them to, I don't know how to say, see the benefit of working with you. And not in a way where they need to work with you, but by the simple fact that the way that you do things is so easy, it is so natural. And I feel like toilet tissue, I always use this as an example. It's just a natural design. I think some of the greatest designs are just naturally there. Like, people, it's so simple that it undermines its practicality. It's so simple, it's stupid, basically. That's how useful it is. Like, people don't really think about toilet tissue in a day. You don't really think about that. That's how mundane toilet tissue is. But it's a huge industry. You know what I'm saying? They got commercials about, oh, this toilet tissue is softer than the next toilet tissue, and this is more absorbent. Yeah. Just like paper towels. Like, those kind of things are staples in whatever society that you're in. They're staples. You know that. And
yeah,
it's just crazy how, like, people don't think it.
Yeah, because, like, I think what's also a good product designer is you want to also think of creating something, figuring out the design and manufacturing process, so you can give something that people have been looking for. I think that there's a lot of things out there where you go out shopping and you're looking for something to help you, and there's just nothing available, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, let's say I've been eating cleaner. I've been eating a lot healthier myself, and even more, and just educating myself about eating clean and eating healthier foods, but then also understanding why I don't eat other foods, like what it's actually doing to my body and stuff. So if I go out and shop, and if I go out into, let's say, the Albertsons, if that's a local grocery store here, and it's just a very traditional grocery store, they're not going to have very many products of what I'm looking to shop for, because they sell primarily majority of processed products. Mm-hmm. A lot of fake foods, a lot of processed foods, or even if they have a butchery, it's still majority of the meat probably come from an industrialized center. It's not from like a local farm-raised organic type farm, because an industrialized meat is going to have a lot of preservatives or other items that they feed and they're giving to let's say if it's beef, they're giving to the cows, that's going to show up in the meat. And so a lot of that stuff is harmful, and there's a lot of food that people have just accepted as normal because it's been put in front of them for so long, they've just accepted it as normal, and then we adjust. But these things like have an effect on your health, and they have drastic consequences on what happens to your body. Like industrialized sugars and flour are not good to eat at all, because they cause inflammation in the body. So we know that that's going to cause a lot of health problems. So for someone like me, I'm going out and I'm looking to eat healthier and cleaner, I'm not going to find what I want at a store like Albertsons, because majority of the stuff they sell is just cheap processed foods. How can we get the price of this stuff down? Like, majority of the people are not thinking about quality there. You might find a few quality products that have figured it out, but that's not what they're known for. It's going to be pretty hard to find it there. So the person making these products and delivering it to people, it's like they always need to continue to re-understand what people really want. Like someone like me, I'm not just openly going out all the time saying like, this is what I want. I'm actually slowly making these changes week by week and changing my habits and changing where I shop and changing where I go to like get something to eat or go grocery shopping to buy some food. Like everything that I'm buying is changing. And so I think a lot of the companies, that's where you have to put so much effort into understanding your customer, because you need to understand what your customer needs today. Like, so for someone like me, it's changed. It's still changing, but it's been changing over a period of time. And now it's a matter of like, for the company that produces food, if they make certain foods, they've got to look at the market and they've got to see, well, is this market segment growing or is it contracting? Is it going down? And if it's going down, then what's going up? You know, what are people replacing this item for? Because then the company needs to think about, well, okay, this is going down. For some people just don't want this product anymore, but we're seeing an upswing in this product. Could it be related? Could the people that stopped buying this product are starting to buy this other product and replace it? And that's a lot of hard work, but I think a company's got to really put in the time to really try to understand and look at the market research, to understand anything that's changing, you know, in the market, so they can protect themselves for the future. Because a company's going to make investment, right? Like it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of money and investment for them to put a product to the market. So they've really got to do their homework to make sure that they're continually to put something out in the market that people want.
Yeah. That's so true, man. I mean, I'm like, I don't know, man. It's just like, but that there is that case. You know, there is that case where people are listening. You know what I'm saying? Like, and there is that case where people need something, and it's not there yet, and then somebody figures out how to do it first, and it's just real. One of those things, you know. How do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you do?
Well,
that?
The interesting thing was like when I always look at like what these really talented entrepreneurs are able to do and come up with, right? Mm-hmm. Like this is a show like we want to be the single source of truth for entrepreneurs that are out there working to build the next $1 billion business, right? Mm-hmm. If you're even trying to get to the $1 billion business, which is pretty tough, there's more and more of them these days. So pretty soon it's going to start looking at the $1 trillion business. Who's going to become the first $1 trillion business, right? And then eventually, as the economy grows and things change and improve, and these companies are able to sell to more people and sell faster and sell more in a year, but then we're going to start. Then the $1 trillion company is going to happen, and then the next $1 trillion company, and then the next one. So it's like, how do these companies? How is somebody able to take their idea to get to that level, right? Like I think sometimes a lot of it takes is just luck, which is the right timing and you're in the right place. So someone like Steve Jobs, now, although he was probably had maybe he saw something and saw a problem that a lot of people saw, but most people weren't living in Silicon Valley, which came to be known as Silicon Valley, and lived around so much semiconductors and computer processing and everything that had to do with building a computer. It was just at his doorstep. Like it was so easy for him to get. But if Steve Jobs was living in another part of the country, most likely he wouldn't have built Apple, just because the odds were stacked a little bit more against him. He wouldn't have as much accessibility with what he did when he made it. So, but when he saw it, he didn't just look at what was available and try to think about what he knew and what he thought people would have. He actually tried to look beyond that and try to think about, well, what should a computer what should a computer be?
Yeah.
Like how should somebody use this? What's a better experience for somebody? How can we make this even better? Like he not only designed it from the outside and the looks of it, but they designed it from the inside and made sure it functioned even better. They made sure he tried to make sure the computer would do something that no other system like that could do at the time. Like when they came up with their power supply design, and he pushed a certain engineer to design a power pack that would do something. And he also wanted to take away the sound from it. He didn't want the computer to overheat. He wanted to take away that annoying sound of the fan, right? So he actually looked at problems and said, well, you know what? That's a problem. Might not be a problem for everybody, but it was a problem for him. And then he was not going to stop until he got rid of that problem, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't have that tenacity about what they're developing and building. They can't push themselves enough, and they're not obsessed enough when you like come up with that idea and to actually stick with it no matter what. Because when he says that, like, I want you to design and build this product and make it faster and more powerful, which is going to heat up more, but I also want you to be able to cool it, and I want you to be able to cool it. I don't want to hear that fan.
Yeah.
You know, so he was almost coming up with ridiculous requests. Like some of them probably just thinking, dude, you are ridiculous.
Yeah,
there's no way. Like nobody, there's way too much. Nobody's done this before. What? And why we're just trying to build a computer, which is hard enough. Now you're like trying to make us, you know, it's like you're basically trying to tell us to make a human fly. Like you're trying to make us do something that's never been done before. But he was so adamant, and they were so hard pressed on solving those issues and getting rid of those problems.
Yeah.
So I feel like in product design, there's a lot of extremes. You can go to an extreme like that, or you can just go to some extreme. Like I don't know how the guy did it, but remember when pet rocks were popular?
Yeah.
Well, there was a guy that had the right connections in manufacturing and decided it was the right time to produce the pet rock, and he came up with the pet rock, and he maybe had all the manufacturing processes in order, and he produced it, and the guy became a multi-millionaire
over a rock.
Yeah, just like, come on, it's like anybody can go up and pick this up. Why were people actually buying this at a store for the kid? Right?
Yeah.
There's absolutely no design ingenuity into that. Absolutely nothing. So that's where it makes you think about a marketer. Like, what do marketers know that most people don't know? Because how in the world do you get somebody to buy a pet rock when you advertise it or put it on a shelf at a store? I have no idea. But I think for some people, they just kind of like to buy weird products that makes them laugh. Like, you know, those fidget spinners or the spinners that people were buying, and they were selling like crazy, and you actually couldn't. You try to go buy one, and everybody was out.
Mm-hmm.
Those things do absolutely nothing. I mean, it's just something that you sit there and it kind of spins, and it's interesting to look at, but that's about it. Why did so many people gravitate and buy that thing? I don't know, but I'm sure talking about it had a lot to do with it. You know, like people seeing other people with it and curiosity. You never did? I didn't either. I just felt like it was curiosity or what, but certain people buy products like that.
Yeah. It's crazy though.
So yeah, there's so many different angles you can approach product design. But I feel like it's endless. These days, I feel like for most people, I think the easiest way for them to reach success with it is to maybe just stick with either something you know really well that you have a lot of skills towards, or something that you're just really passionate about. Because at least if you don't know much about it and you need to learn a lot, if you're passionate about it enough, you just might go a lot farther than most people would take it. Mm-hmm. You know, you could create the next product that was like the Apple computer. when they came out, because they didn't just do it once. They did it again and again and again. So there's a process and there's a way of thinking to do that, to where Apple's been able to just create not only their first computers that were unique, but then, you know, we all knew the iPhone when there was the smartphone, the iPad, and then you were talking about the iWatch.
Yeah. I think that we definitely have to work on this idea of getting stuff together.
Yeah.
Because I feel like people don't really understand that concept. They're not really grasping on the fact that you can't just go about a topic. You can't just go about doing something without knowing where your end result is going to be. And I think a lot of times people get in this mind space of like, well, I know what I want to do, and I'm going to do what I have to do to get there. But then they don't think about, well, look at these integers outside of what you're trying to do. That actually matters as well. And I think people don't really put that into consideration. So they go and they do these things and they put all this effort and energy into something, and they end up failing, you know, and then they're wondering why. And then the reason why they fail is because the reason why they fail is because they think they can do something without understanding what they have to do. And I think that it's important to know, and we talked about this in our show like a long time ago, you know, how to do certain things, and, you know, how to put a plan together, how to create an idea, how to be resourceful. Because you're not going to have all the money at first. You're not going to have all the money. Some people do. Some people get lucky, and they're given $1 million or $10 million or $500,000, or that $500 they need because they already saved, you know, $350,000. You know, they say, whatever it is. Some people are given that little edge, and other people are not. And I feel like the greatest ideas come really from somebody. I mean, I don't know. I can't say if it's going to be a person who was given it and they had a really great idea and they just happened to be in a good environment and it fostered their ability so they can go and be better and better and better. Or somebody who had nothing, absolutely nothing, and turned nothing into $1 billion. I don't know who has the better ideas. I believe just that spark of ingenuity and creativity comes from within. And there's a certain kind of people who have that. But I believe everybody can achieve that in life. Because if everybody's unique, that means that there is a way to connect to everybody. Yeah, there are basic things, you know, food, place to sleep, and just a reason to continue to live. I think those are the three basic things, you know, that human beings need to have. Like food and water, a safe place to sleep, and a reason to continue. And that's the reason why I think this is so important about product launching and failures in product, is because a lot of people don't have that reason to continue with the product. So it dies off or dwindles away, or they don't do this little thing. If you can put those little three basic things inside of what you're doing, I believe that you can go somewhere with it. You can succeed. And it's just important to know that. It's important to consider that in all that you do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's what we have to do. And I just want to touch on what we're doing. Like I said before, earlier in the show, I was like, look, we are creating something great right now. It's going to be huge, and it's going to be something that you want to be a part of. You know what I'm saying? You're going to want to be a part of what we're about to do. You're going to want to tune in. You're going to want to sign up to go to the website, thetrepshow.com, and you're going to want to just do that and not do it because we're asking you to do it. Because if you find any value in what we're doing, you're going to find some real value in what we're going to be bringing up, you know. And I think that it's real important that those out there who are listening and they really don't want to fail in business and success, you really got to understand that there's information out there. And like I said, we're not going to gain anything from you signing up and getting this free offer that we're going to have, you know. And I think that is important, because I know there's a lot of people come out there and they give these free offers, but these offers don't have anything for you to use. We're going to give you something that you can really use, and if you're serious about what you're trying to do, if you're serious, you're going to gain from it.
Well, I'd like to point out, like, who else do you know that is committed to help you build your business to become the next billion-dollar company? I can't think of anybody else besides the Trip Show.
Yeah. True.
So do you want a partner that's going to say, you know what, let's do it? Like, what are you striving for? What are you trying to reach for? Do you have this like ridiculous idea? You want to find partners that are in it, that are opportunistic about it, that can actually really help you to get there.
Yeah.
So you just don't have anybody else there like you with you that you do like the Trip Show with here with me and Thaddeus, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think that what really needs to happen is that you really listen to this beat. Tony Concept made it, but
yeah,
it is a dope beat. But I think what's really important right now is that the people who are listening, like you said all the time, they make that willing decision. They look themselves in the mind or in the eye or in the mirror in some kind of way, and they assess themselves and they say, this is where I want to be. Now, what if somebody said, hey, here's a little key that you can use to open up this door to opportunity. We're going to give it to you for free. And if you use it right, you will see a definite change in how you structure out your day. So, thank you for watching the show or listening to the show, and you have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.